Officer and Executive Director of the Preservation Society of Newport County, a position she's held since December of 1998. Under her stewardship, the Society has evolved into Rhode Island's largest cultural organization, overseeing 11 architecturally and historically significant properties, 7 of which are designated as National Historic Landmarks. The Society's accreditation by the American Alliance of Museums underscores its national stature and institutional rigor. Ms. Coxe's professional career reflects a dynamic integration of environmental advocacy, public administration, and historic preservation. Prior to her current role, she served as Massachusetts Secretary of Environmental Affairs for 6 years and led the Rhode Island Safe Bay program for more than a decade, transforming it into the largest citizen-led environmental organization in New England. Her leadership has consistently advanced institutional growth, fostered public trust, and prompted critical discourse about how heritage stewardship can coexist with environmental innovation and contemporary development. Her contributions have been recognized by numerous accolades, including the 2006 Award of Excellence from the National Garden Club in recognition of her lifelong environmental advocacy, the 2011 Businesswomen Award for Career Achievement from the Providence Business News, and most recently in 2023, the Greatest Living Rhode Islanders recognition by Go Local Prov, a testament to her enduring influence on the civic and cultural fabric of the state she calls home. Please help me welcome Trudy.
Well, thank you. I am delighted to be here because it's coming back home for me. Because if many of you remember, Save the Bay's original office was on Main Street, and so I spent 5 or 6 years as the first assistant director, volunteer assistant director, and director of Save the Bay. And I think is Newport Creamery still in that? No. Oh no. I'm sorry. I think I ate lunch there every day. Anyway, it's very good to be here. I thank you very much. And I'm going to try to leave enough time to answer questions. But just want to start out by asking if anybody recognizes this man. Somebody's got to recognize him. So this is Julian Fellows. Julian Fellows is the man who wrote Downton Abbey, and he wrote The Gilded Age. So my next question is, has anybody watched the TV show The Gilded Age? Yes. Thank God. Yes, good. So it's in its, the 4th season is being filmed now. Much of it was filmed in Newport. And I got to know Julian Fellows, who is British, when he, during COVID, called me and asked me if I would be able to have lunch with him, which, if you remember back to COVID, was horrifying. Like, have lunch with you? I haven't been out of my office or the house for months. And during the lunch, I said, of course, yes. At the end of the lunch, all through lunch, he talked about the importance of storytelling to history. That if you don't tell good stories, people will never remember anything. And if you look at his TV shows, you know that he is a phenomenal storyteller. So at the end of lunch, and he talked for about 2.5 hours. I hope everybody can hear me. At the end of the lunch, I asked him with much trepidation if he would like to take a tour. This is one of our houses. It's called Chepstow. It was built in the 1860s, and it is our least visited house. So I do not know this house well. But the day before Julian came for lunch, I spent the entire day memorizing 10 objects from every room. And I said, would you like to take a tour? Hoping he would say no. But of course, he said yes. And I'm going along, and my husband is standing behind Julian Fellows, giving me the thumbs thumbs up. Doing a great job. And here's the interior of Chepstow. It's a beautiful house. We get to the second floor, and Julian Fellows says to me, Tom, we were just talking about epiphany moments in one's career.
Yeah.
This was an epiphany moment. He says to me, Trudy, 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 what is the story? Oh my God. I mean, this is horrific. The truth of the matter is, this was a house that was given to us by a woman who's a Newport socialite, didn't really do very much, but she had a lot of money, and she needed to get rid of the house, so she gave it to the Preservation Society. And for years, we have not been able to figure out what the story is. So I could know every object in this room, but it didn't matter. He wanted to know the story of the house, the story of the owner, the story of the people, a story, and I hadn't fulfilled his requirements. So that was a very important message, because when I got back to the office, my whole mission was to say to our staff and to our board, storytelling is what it's all about. So today what I want to talk about is, going forward, is I want to talk about historic house museums. And the people from Coxe will know and understand this issue very well. I want to talk about the Preservation Society before HBO came and filmed in our houses, because we've done very well because of that TV show. And then I want to talk about where we are today. And in general, I think that historic house museums, and we have 11 of them, are in real trouble right now. Every single indicator shows, whether you're talking about Paul Revere House, whether you're talking about House of Seven Gables, these are all examples of important historic house museums in New England. Strawberry Bank, which is in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, Victoria Mansion, which is in Maine, Mark Twain House, and even our smaller houses, and I'm going to identify them very quickly. Hunter House, which was built in the 1740s, I'll talk about this more later. It was the house that started the Preservation Society in 1945. This is the Isaac Bell House. Green Animals, the largest topiary garden in North America. Kings Cove, Chepstow, and the Breaker Stable. All of our smaller houses do okay. Not big numbers at all. If it weren't for the big houses, we might not be in existence. So thank God for the Breakers, and for the Elms, and for Chateau-sur-Mer, beautiful Roseland, and the Marble House. These 5 houses support the other 6 houses, okay? Now, we're unique because we've got money coming in from these big houses that can pay for all of the expenses of the smaller houses. I'm sorry, is that my phone? No, it's not. Okay. So this issue of where historic house museums are right now is very important. For example, the Met Opera announced back in January or February, I think it was, that they were instituting layoffs. This is true for all cultural institutions, by the way. It's not just historic house museums, it's the ballet, it's opera, it's Broadway's doing well, but even going to the movies. People don't go to the movies anymore. They stay at home. So the whole cultural fabric of our nation, I think, is at a real pivoting point. And that's why I'm really concerned, and I worked so hard at this. MFA just announced about 4 months ago that it was laying off 33 people. And, think about it. There are, and we've done surveys, and we see surveys of New England. There are, of the 121 museums surveyed in New England, on their attendance, month to month, 47% see a decline in attendance from last year. That's a big number. And 30,000 museums in America, okay? 30,000. So Clouds Hill is one of them, we are another. 18 of those 30,000 are historic house museums. 80% of all of the historic house museums in America, of these 18,000, have at least $1 million worth of deferred maintenance or more. And I'm sure that doesn't surprise you. Does it surprise you, Ann?
No.
I mean, you never have enough money. If it's not the roof, it's the gutters. If it's not the gutters, it's the windows. Whether you're taking care of it, you always have work to do. 80% of these 18,000 museums have $1 million or more of deferred maintenance. 80% are operating on budgets of less than $50,000 a year. You can't get anything done on $50,000 a year. Nothing, right? That's not a lot of money. And if you're taking care of big houses, it's nothing. And 65% of these 18,000 have no staff at all. So I'm guessing that you're all volunteers. So many of the museums that we care about, or the historic sites that we care about, are being taken care of by people who are older, who are not going to be around, and there's nobody coming along. So what happens? I mean, the worry is that these places get sold off, they get torn down, the objects in the collections get put on eBay, who knows? But there are lots of things to be worried about. So, again, these are the houses, these are the small houses that are supported by the large ones. Now, getting back to HBO and why I love Julian Fellows. Julian Fellows has done us a great favor. He wanted the TV show to be filmed in Newport. He refers to Newport as a village of palaces, which I think is a great expression. And he wanted the show to be filmed, and he got his way because many of the scenes in the TV show have been filmed in our houses, and they paid us for it. But more importantly, this is why I really love Julian Fellows, because I get letters every day of the week from people saying, would you send me some information about the Gilded Age? The Gilded Age. The Gilded Age, or the Gilded. I belong to that guild down the street that is trying to do bake sales or something. I mean, at least now people know how to spell the Gilded Age, which is just so helpful. So I'm going to tell you very quickly about where we spend much of our time, and that is selling the Gilded Age. And, you know, you're probably more colonial, I think. Am I right?
74.
Okay. We're going to go 100 years in advance. Sorry. The Gilded Age is such an important part of American history because it is a time when this country just flourished in terms of innovation. It's when the sewing machine and the typewriter and the telephone and the first automobile and good old electricity came onto the scene. It was a really dynamic, transformational period in American history. And it gets lost because when you're studying history, you go from the Civil War to World War I. And that period in between, the Gilded Age, was when the innovation was occurring. And I just think that we need all of us to learn more about the Gilded Age because that's when this country really, the basis of it was formed. Very, very prosperous time. This is the Vanderbilt House in New York. Unfortunately, it was torn down. It was a time when immigrants were coming rapidly into the country, and not too far away from the Vanderbilt House were thousands and thousands of tenements where mostly immigrants were living, and they were arriving with great expectations. They believed that their lives were going to be different. They were going to do well. This was their chance. And I think lavish parties and then children on the street. And it was a time when there were no regulations. So the party boss was not unusual. That's how work got done. The rules didn't matter because they didn't exist. And it was a time of acquisition. Here is a puck cartoon of J.P. Morgan just sucking up everything that he can, from Egyptian mummies to, I don't know, beautiful pieces of furniture. And more importantly, the Gilded Age was a time when so many of the social causes of our country were started. And it makes perfect sense. So you have African Americans coming out of the Civil War, getting a lot of rights, and then they get taken away. You have women who are now no longer in the house because they have more time. They're saying, yeah, why don't I have the right to vote? You have children working in factories at very young ages, advocates coming forward and saying, no, children really should be in school, not in factories or in mines. I love this picture because it's a really famous photographer. That's the story. It just did it in about 2 minutes of the Gilded Age, okay? So now I'm going to move on to the next piece. Here we are with the TV show. And again, I think he chose Newport because it was authentic. He wanted the TV show to look real. And our opportunity as an organization got started in 1945. And this woman, Catherine Warren, over here, heard a rumor around Newport. And the rumor was that the interior of this house, Hunter House, built in the 1740s, the interior of this house was going to be taken out of Newport and put into the Metropolitan Museum of Art for one of the period rooms. You've all been to the Met. You've been to those glorious period rooms. We love them, but Catherine Warren said, over my dead body, this is our asset, not New York's. I'm not going to let you take this asset away from Newport. So she went on a campaign. She got a number of primarily women to support her in buying the house, in restoring the house, and in later furnishing the house. So nothing is original at Hunter House, but it is period, colonial, pre-colonial period furniture, and then restoring it, and that's what it looks like today. Now, along the way, Catherine Warren hitched up with her very good friend, Countess Sashani, who was the daughter of Cornelius Vanderbilt. And Countess Sashani and Catherine Warren hatched this idea. And that was, if Countess Sashani, who was living at the Breakers at that point, back in the 1940s, what if I open up my house for tours, and the money raised from those tours would go towards helping save Hunter House? I mean, tremendous act of philanthropy, right? And so the Breakers opened up in 1948, $1 a tour, and within months, tens of thousands of people had congregated in Newport to see the largest house on the East Coast, except for Biltmore. We still are indebted to the Vanderbilt family. In 1972, the Vanderbilt family decided to sell the Breakers. The Preservation Society, which had been operating the tours at the Breakers, stepped forward and said, we're interested. The appraised value, now remember, that's right about the time that the Navy had left Rhode Island, and tens of thousands of people were out of work. The appraised value with the contents of this 70-room house, the appraised value was, and this was big money for the Preservation Society, $366,000. Can you imagine? So we bought it, but remember, the Preservation Society at that point, that was a lot of money. So think about this story. She opens up the first floor. Now the whole house is open, the first 2 floors are open. The Vanderbilt family is still living on the 2nd and 3rd floors. People are going through the first floors for tours. But I have to wonder, I'm going to go back and look at these 2 wonderful women. This is Countess Sashani. This is Catherine Warren in their older years. Did they ever imagine that in 2026, more than 25 million people have walked through the gates of the Breakers? I'm sure that they did not know that. It's just one of the most visited houses in America. And it's really what helps keep us going, because this is the workhorse for the Preservation Society. We're very fortunate. And now you can go to the 3rd floor, and it's still being restored, but it's a fascinating story. You can go down in the basement. You can walk from the tunnel that takes you from the caretaker's cottage into the house. It's a fascinating story. So, back in 2020, our annual meeting was held on Zoom. And that is the treasurer of our organization giving his report. I think there were 5 people at our annual meeting that year. It was in June of 2020. And it was a pretty bleak time because we tried to convince ourselves during this period that anything that was virtual was just as good as. You know, watching a concert online was just as good as the real thing. Taking a tour of Marble House was just as good as a real tour. But the fact of the matter is, it was not. But it was the thing that kept us going, because who knew? We didn't know when we would ever open up again. And we finally had the opportunity to open up the Elms. And it was in June of 2020. And it was the Elms and the Breakers. Incredible, because during that period of time, we don't get state grants, but we did get a grant from the state. It was called the Take It Outside program. And we set up tours of the exterior of the Breakers, where people could walk along and they would see the trees decorated, and if they had enough courage, they could go inside, but most people didn't want to go inside because we were all scared. And this is, you know, people outside walking around with their masks on. You know how crazy we were. And it is amazing to me, we started that program in 2020. And this is Sparkling Lights today. In 19 days, we make almost $1 million. So there are good things that came out of COVID. Yes, we had Gina telling us to knock it off. You all remember that. But it all worked out. So here we are back at the Gilded Age. We get a call from the HBO people. Can we come and visit? We'd like to check out the venues. Now, we've had many calls about TV shows and movies, and yeah, okay, come on. But they did. They decided that they would film. So I want to show you a few of the befores and afters. This is the Elms on the left, and on the right. This is what it looks like when a TV company comes into town. This is the Great Hall of the Breakers, and it's overrun with equipment, as you can see. They took over the streets of Newport, and they did that. They were filming back in April, and took over the streets of Newport as well. Very exciting time. They set up tents outside of our properties for cafeterias, for people to change their clothes, the actors to rest. You would see, drive by, we were not allowed on the property because we had rented the properties out, but you drive down Bellevue Avenue and there would be a horse and carriage with people dressed from the 1880s. This is the Elms basement where the kitchen is. This is what it looks like in the movie or the TV show. Much of the activity, if you've seen the TV show, takes place in that basement. So before and after. The only thing that's really changed is the lighting fixtures. We actually kept the modern lighting fixtures, which is completely against all the rules. We shouldn't have done it, but we like these lights better than those. But we don't tell the public that. Here is the Elms with Bertha Russell and her friend in the hallway. Equipment being taken. I must say that if you ever have the opportunity to do a TV show or a movie, we had no problems with damage to the house. We had no problems with anything. They were very, very respectful of our property. So the Great Hall of the Breakers. Again, Morgan Spector, very famous young actor who was Mr. Russell in the TV show. Quite a production. This is the billiard room in the Breakers. This is from the TV show, so you really see the full scale of the houses because they changed so little. The only thing that they changed was the covering of the table. This is a fake cover to that, but we didn't have to move anything out. Very, very respectful. This is the Breakers music room. And it is the site of the last episode from season 1 where the big ball was held. And there you have it. So how it looks all the time, how it looks in the TV show. And the Marble House dining room. Notice the lighting fixtures here. The only thing that was changed, lighting fixtures, table was taken out. Not the same chairs. These are each 100 pounds a piece, so it wouldn't be practical. So before and after. And then a scene from King's Coat. This is a house that was built in the 1840s. And nothing has been changed. So we were really lucky. Why am I telling you this? Because it has been just unbelievably helpful to us at a time when we had to lay off 231 people. I mean, we had no money coming in. We were really hurting. Nothing was going well for us. People weren't traveling. We depend upon travelers. So to have HBO decide to locate itself in Newport was just a godsend. And it's what helped get us back into where we are today. So this is all fake. This is built, and it's copied after the Marble House staircase. So when Bertha Russell walks down that staircase with those beautiful dresses in the TV show, she's walking down what really looks like, I mean, I looked at this the first time and went, I don't remember giving them permission to film that. And that's what they built on in a studio in Long Island, which is unbelievable, yes.
Why didn't they make a mock-up when they had a house to do it in?
Well, 2 reasons. They made the mock-up because they have to have consistency. And we could not close the houses for that long in Newport. When we were negotiating with them, we said to HBO, we're okay if you're here in January, February, March, April, into May, but come June, we got to be open because that's our bread and butter. So that was one of the reasons. And one of the, things could fall apart. So they went out and built studios that are so similar to what the real thing is. And it gave them, when they're filming with us, I mean, they can't film all night. They may want to, and that may be part of their business cycle, but for us, we gotta have staff there. I mean, we're not interested in working all night long or working 7 days in a row for 15 weeks. When they're on set, and we've met all the actors and actresses, and sometimes their days are reeling. I mean, they just keep moving. So that's the reason.
Trudy,
Yeah.
just to give you an idea, I know you know that they filmed at Clouds Hill.
Yes, I
But when
do.
you think about what you went through, because we're much smaller facility,
Yes.
they spent 1 month with us. From
Really?
breakdown to setting up the full production setup of all the rooms, and
Yeah.
then the final filming, and then breakdown, it was 1 month.
Wow. Did you have to take everything out of the house?
Pretty much
Clothes?
everything. Yeah, we allowed a certain number of items to be a part of the scenery, but
Yeah.
because of what was filmed in the house and the size of the home, they
Yeah.
had to bring in almost everything to fit each of the production sets.
Yeah, we did a lot of that too. If you see Bertha Russell in bed, it's not one of our beds, it's a fake bed. It's not one of our mattresses, it's a fake mattress. We had to clear out some of the rooms. And in fact, excuse me, I take that back. We cleared out a lot of the rooms that they were filming in, kept a lot of the artwork, and we worked out right steals and all that kind of stuff. It is it's a huge production, and you know the scheduling. They take up a lot
I
of
know
time.
when people think filming for a day, they think a normal day is an 8-hour day, but that's totally incorrect with filming.
Right.
It's 18 hours a day, and because they were at Clouds Hill with that production, it literally never stopped. There were people on scene
Yeah,
for literally 24 hours a day.
yeah,
At one point, for a little more than a week.
yeah. Well, they filmed all through April into the first week of May this year, but they were at the Elms, Chateau-sur-Mer, Marble House, and the Breakers, so they were never at a particular house more than 8 or 9 days. And that was important for us because we don't want to shut down our houses. What month were they filming?
Well, that made it even more difficult because we were in February.
Well, that's good for you because your attendance
It's
isn't
a
good.
slow, it's exactly, it's a slow
But
time of the
It's
season.
a terrible time to be,
Yeah. And we
working.
had pretty foul weather.
Yeah.
They needed to set up, as you mentioned, all the tent setups alone. There were 6 of them.
Yeah,
So much goes into, how many tractor trailers. They had to rent a local church property for all the tractor trailers because we have many acres, but still could not
yeah.
provide enough for what they needed.
I hope you made a little bit of money.
Oh
I don't
no,
want
we
you
did
to tell.
we did very well, which we knew it had to be. But yeah, it was a difficult time, but
Yeah.
at the right time for us, because you're absolutely correct. February is okay.
Yeah. So here are just some other examples of copying. This is the real Chateau-sur-Mer. That's what the Russell's kitchen looks like in the TV show. And so where did he get his inspiration? He got his inspiration, when he tells it, he got his inspiration, Julie, by researching every single house in America that was a Gilded Age house. And certainly he started with the Vanderbilt's house in New York. And, what he kept saying to us all through the beginning stages of choosing us is that he wanted the houses in the TV show to have the grandiose, Gilded Age, authentic feeling. He wanted it to be real. That was the other reason why. Let's not build lots of sets. He wanted the real thing. So there are several reasons why. So you can get some of the impressions that, this is our staircase. And these were the things that he was saying helped inform his storytelling about the Russell family and all the shenanigans that goes on. Bertha Russell, she is fashioned after none other than Alva Vanderbilt, who built Marble House. This was her birthday present, her 39th birthday project from her husband. I mean, can you imagine? I think I'll build a house, and that's what I'm going to do. And she hired Richard Morrison, who's one of the best architects in the period. And Mr. Vanderbilt, her husband, was fashioned after, or Mr. Russell, fashioned after Oliver Hazard Perry Belmont, and who was married to Alva Vanderbilt, who lived at Marble House, who built Marble House. And Alva Vanderbilt is such an interesting character because, I should have Paul here because he can do this so much better than I can, because this is really his specialty. This is a mutual friend, a person who used to be our curator is now working for them. But he knows the Gilded Age inside and out. But, Alva Vanderbilt marries William Vanderbilt and is the first real high society woman to get a divorce. She forces her daughter to marry the Duke of Marlborough. They go to court 20 years after the marriage, and the marriage is annulled. And then Alva Vanderbilt decides that she's going to be a suffragette. So she becomes a leading supporter of women's rights, and used to host a variety of events on the back lawn of Marble House, where speakers from all over the world would come to advocate for women's rights. And then she would give away cups and saucers called Votes for Women, and we now copy that, and it's one of our best-selling products in our stores. So if you've got a woman friend who's running for office, this is what you want to do. And then you have George Russell, Mr. Russell in the TV show, who is the entrepreneur and the capitalist, and you don't know if you like him or don't like him, and he and Mrs. Russell are on the make, and they're going to make it to the top of the echelon of society. He is fashioned after Jay Gould, who owns Lyndhurst, which is on the Hudson River in New York. Gould did not build this house, but he bought it. And Gould had a terrible reputation during the Gilded Age. He was underhanded, he was sleazy, he was a liar, and here he is trying to knock down those rumors. He just doesn't believe them. He was just an awful man, but guess what? He made a lot of money. So here we are. Here's Gina. The other story I want to tell you is Gina Raimondo, we very much wanted the world to know that we had filming going on at our houses, and it was in the height of COVID, and I'm telling you a story out of school, which I shouldn't. She did not want us, it was being taped, so I'll be very careful. She did not want us to talk about it publicly, because remember, there were rules that you couldn't have more than 50 people gathered together. Remember that? Well, there are 400 or 500 people in the back lawn, but we don't see a thing. We don't see anything. What's going on there? That's what we all played out. I mean, we were very, very lucky that she got the view that this was extremely important in terms of financial wherewithal for Newport to have this activity going on. And just to give you a little bit of a sense, tourism is about an $8.8 billion business in Rhode Island. Our impact is about $250,000 of that. $250 million of that. So, the numbers of people who are coming to see the houses really make a difference, not just for Newport and not just for Aquidneck Island, not just for the state of Rhode Island, but for the region. I mean, we are one of the most visited historic sites in the region. So here we are, relying upon the Russells to help sell us, and this is a typical picture of the people who come to visit us. Our flower show starts on Friday, and you'll see lots and lots of people at Rosecliff where it gets held. We depend upon these people to keep us going. And I think last summer was so much fun because the last episode of season 3 was shown for free on the lawn of the Elms. And I think there were something like 2,500 people who came to see it. And there it is, filmed in the Elms with the the camera right in front of the Elms. It was just glorious. And of course, we play off of this through social media, whether it's Instagram, whether it's YouTube, whether it's Facebook. We rely upon all of the press that we can get, much of it which is free. So when Bertha walks down those staircases, she is nothing but money for the Preservation Society. I'm being really blunt, because that is such an iconic, there she is. I mean, this is a scene from the TV show that you can't forget. So, why does it matter? Well, it matters because I got into a disagreement with my board about this today. We spend $1 million a week taking care of the Newport mansions. Think about that. $1 million a week. I'm going to show you how we spend our money. So those ticket sales, they got to keep coming in. Most of our money is not raised. Most of our money is earned from our stores, from our tours, from our rentals, from our special events like the flower show or the wine and food festival, whatever. Really important. And I hope I don't sound like I'm bragging, because I'm not. I am intensely concerned about our future, especially when only 5 of our houses are doing really well, and another 6. Okay? But if one of those houses, one of the weaker ones, was standing on its own, it's very possible that it would be shuttered up. So this to me is really hardcore business, because I want to see those houses around for another 100 to 150 to 200 years. So how do we spend our money? I'm going to go quickly because you're going to relate to all of these restoration stories. This is the Elms backyard. 3 fountains on the back lawn of the Elms. This is what they looked like in about 2001. Every single one of them had been vandalized. All of the statuary gone. This is one of Paul Miller's key projects. He helped design every single one of those pieces of statuary on the fountains. All of it gone. And just brilliant. He would work with the artists. Should this Cupid be smiling or angry? I mean, just a beautiful, beautiful restoration job. So this is a restored fountain, one of 3. This is the alley at the Elms. It's a photograph from 1914, right? And this is what it looks like today. So I think that's I love this because we really tried to stay true to what that garden is supposed to look like. So there it is from 1914, there it is today. Some of the trees have grown. This is the sunken garden of the Elms, what it looked like in 1914 based on a colorized postcard. This is what it looked like when I arrived on the job. Not because we didn't care, but we just didn't have enough money to take care of gardens because we were taking care of roofs. We were taking care of gutters. So this was all special. And so it was kind of a lost territory of the Elms. We never told people to walk through the gardens because there was nothing to see. This is what you got to see. Had the opportunity to restore those gardens. We had the templates for the original garden, which was so lucky. Made huge, huge swaths of cloth, cut every single tiny little wasserie curlicue out, and that's what it looks like today. Really a major restoration, yeah. And this is it from above. By the way, if you're a gardener, you can volunteer to work in this garden. Nobody wants to do it because it's one of the hardest jobs. Taking care of these little teeny boxwoods. It's just an awful job, but it's beautiful. And we have to do it. We care a lot about Aquidneck Island, and probably one of the most iconic areas of the island is the area around Second Beach, Sedgwick's Point. You know it. And it's been painted for centuries by all the best painters in the world, including William Morris Hunt. And that's the view of Second Beach 100 plus years ago. And then this is the view of Second Beach going back to, that's it, with all the telephone poles. There it is along the strip. So this is the before. We buried every single pole. And this was a huge job. But our intent was to bring back the scenic landscape, one of the most important sceneries anywhere in Rhode Island. And I think we did a pretty good job. So that's it before, that's it after. The Elms. This was such a fascinating, Rosecliff, excuse me. This was such a fascinating project because we've been painting these gated doors for, I don't know, ever since, it was built in 1902, just this black paint. And we restored the building several years ago, and in the process of restoration, we removed all the layers of paint from the gates. And sure enough, there was all this gilding, which we did not know about. So always so much fun when you discover these things that you have no idea about. So now that's what the doors look like. This is what they used to look like, blah. This is what they look like now. That was a big, big effort. And the whole restoration, by the way, of Rosecliff was about a $7.3 million project. I mean, that's a lot. And it really was in need of being preserved, so we didn't really have a question about it. Chateau-sur-Mer, one of my favorites is from the 1860s. And the family that built it is the same family that owned it until they gave it to the Preservation Society. So from the 1860s to 1969, 1970, it was in the hands of the Wetmore family. This house was partially built by Richard Morris Hunt, who did Breakers and who did Marble House. And one of the features of Chateau-sur-Mer is this wonderful mural that goes all the way up to the 3rd floor. And it's called the Tree of Life. And the colors are really that vibrant. I don't know if any of you have been to it, but it's not a popular house, but it's a beautiful house. We came to work one day and found this.
Ooh.
Now, most people would pick up those pieces and throw them away, right? Because this is an impossible job. Our conservator at the time, Jeff Moore, said, no, we're going to collect them all. We're going to put them on long, long pieces of wood, and we're going to put it all back together again. And memos went out to the staff. Anyone who loves to do jigsaw puzzling, we need you. So sure enough, it took months. But all the pieces that we could find were found. Things were glued together, infilling, and painting. Tell me which part of this ceiling fell down. That's a darn good conservation job. Can't tell the difference. So we have been able to preserve this wonderful tree of life. And then we do a little bit of environmental work. Last year we learned that our parking lot at Marble House was, all the runoff from our parking lot was going onto our neighbor's property, which we didn't know because there's a big hedge. And it's where the Tree Conservancy of Newport was just beginning to plant trees, to grow more trees for Newport. And they were getting flooded out, so they were not happy. And instead of building one of those big container ponds, we installed a rain garden. And there hasn't been, which is so beautiful, there hasn't been a bit of rain that has run off that has gone from our property to theirs. A little bit more expensive, but environmentally the right thing to do. So there you have it. Isaac Bell. Not sure why that picture is there, but it is. This was another recent project. This is probably the most, let me show it to you, the most important shingle-style house in America, built in the 1880s. And it needed a lot of work. I think the last time it was really touched was in the 1990s. It really had to be rebuilt. And there it is in process, and there it is today. Really, if you haven't been to the Isaac Bell House, I think it's referred to by Vincent Scully from Yale University as being the finest example of shingle-style architecture. This is not heavily visited. It is not furnished. We've never had enough money to furnish it. But you do get a sense of how the transition from the Victorian period into the modernist period occurs. Because lots of windows, lots of color, lots of light, not Victorian at all.
I grew up over there, and my grandparents rented the Isaac Bell House before
Wow.
the Preservation Society, and they ran a boarding house.
Yes. What was their favorite name?
Holborn.
Oh yes, I've heard that name.
And so as a young 10-year-old, I had to run in the house around there.
This is known by people who are older generation of Newporters. This was the party house. This is where the wildest parties in Newport were held. It's been everything. It's been a boarding house. It was the house of a very famous actress. It was the you go up into the 3rd floor, and there are these black lighting where the neon is painted onto it's a black background and the neon colors and.
That was after.
Oh, okay. But it's one of our favorite houses. And then we do spend some time, as I said before, for the Youngs, working. This is a last summer project. The North Parterre garden of the Breakers hadn't been redone in years, and this is it coming back into place. And this is now what it looks like a year later. And then, I'm almost at the end, we've also really invested heavily in being as green as possible. We installed geothermal at Chateau-sur-Mer. We've done it at the Breakers. We're doing it right now at Marble House. It has cut our fuel bill going geothermal by 80%. And you can imagine the fuel bill for a place like the Breakers is huge. So it's been a very hard project because we had to hide. So when you're walking through the house, you don't want to see the pipes. You had to hide it, but we were able to figure out how to do it. We're having a harder time with Marble House. But very, very important. And that's gotten us a lot of really good press. And then, finally, the last project, and we are working on it now, is the terrace at the Breakers. It's a $7.9 million effort. I'm sorry, the picture missing, but that's the roadway into the terrace. We're about 3/4 of the way through that project. We haven't got it paid for. That's just not the kind of thing that anybody particularly wants to pay for along the terrace. So that's a big effort. So that gives you a little bit of a sense of what we do in Newport, and maybe some of my stories relate to some of the things you're doing here. And we all have a very important mission, and that is to somehow find a way to keep the architecture of the past, the stories of the past, alive. And it's hard. So thank you very much.
If I may add 90 seconds to your excellent speech. I certainly am a history freak. I've traveled Europe, Hudson River, Chicago, Frank Lloyd Wright, and of course Newport is special for its extreme concentration of architectural splendor in such a confined space. And so in that sense, I want to remind people that really the base of support, unfortunately now only about 3% of the adult population outside of school will read a nonfiction book. So how do you get people interested in things of this sort? Well, your local communities, your local house can attract a population of people that get interested in history to your own local history, which is easy, it's right there in your neighborhood, and then you can go on to the grander, splendor things in Newport and elsewhere. In that sense, enjoy this building, and if you like, go over by the bass drum, get a history of the Knish Guards and the Pfeiffer Drum Corps, and of the 18 historic armories of Rhode Island, which are interesting history.
Good, thank you. Good lesson. Yes, you had a question. Oh, you, okay. Any comments, thoughts? Yes?
So tell me, what has the garden brought to the mansions? You're restoring the gardens. What dimensional, what have they brought you so far?
Well, this is anecdotal, but we do know that our visitor, and they come from all over, they like walking the grounds before or after a tour. We used to not let people even sit on the grass. We didn't. And the cars, who bring a picnic lunch, cars, we would not allow that. COVID changed everything. So people might bring their sandwiches for their whole family. They don't want to go out to a restaurant in Newport. That's the way they're going to be able to spend the day. I just think that, you can't separate the landscape from the houses. You just simply can't. And our gardens were in secondhand. So it really was important to bring the whole story together. You can't tell the story of the Vanderbilts and the Breakers without understanding that they designed 13 acres of land And it was a showpiece. And it was going to, not just the house, demonstrate to the world that they had it, but also the gardens too. The one thing about gardens is that things that were planted in 1895, have grown. And do you take it back to what it looked like when the house was built, which would mean cutting down all the trees, or do you just, like any gardener, you're all gardeners probably, things change.
Okay, well, thank you. That's a great perspective. Thank you for sharing.
But that's a major part of the upkeep.
I mean, it is a major part, yeah. So they're actively, our gardens are actively used, certainly from spring until sparkling lights. Then, when people come to visit, they're coming to the house, they're not getting tours of the garden. But we have walking tours of our gardens, we have several, you can go, there's an app that you can download, so if you're interested in Chateau-sur-Mer, the Wetmores were incredible tree collectors. So if you want to know about and many of the trees are still around, you have a chance to listen to that on an app. So we're teaching, and look, we have the Newport Flower Show, which is celebrating its 30th anniversary this weekend. I mean, we have a pretty strong component of people. Green Animals is a garden who really care about that outdoor landscape, so have to do it. Thank you all very much.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it.